Aloha and welcome to the Embodied Healing Self podcast with your host, Jen Mons. Each week, join me for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around embodied healing and awakening to your soul's purpose. Thank you for listening in. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Embodied Healing Self. So I'm really excited to just be in a space of recording on my own this morning. I've had the honor and pleasure of having some amazing guests on the show over the past couple months, and I actually have a lot more of amazing guests to share with you all. But I thought I'd just come today and just share with you what's present for me in this moment, which is really a journey through the chakras. And I wanted to share this because as I was being interviewed on the Wellness Lately podcast by the beautiful Bridget and Dana just a few days ago, I shared that the foundation for how I see the world is through the chakra system. And I don't really talk about that very much, but it is the 9-month mentorship program that I created is really a journey through the chakras. And every yoga class that I have ever taught or created, and every healthy eating program I ever created for the past 10 years has all been through the lens of the chakra system. So some of you may be listening and wondering, well, what is the chakra system? And I want to start by saying I am in no way an expert in the chakras. I'm just sharing that this is how I see the world. I see the world through energy. And so the chakra system is a system of being described as energy centers throughout the body that start from our sacrum and go up to our crown or the top of our head and beyond, that really allow us to integrate within our own existence, our own body, to the world around us. And so I look at each of the chakras as like a mini portals, which we are constantly inputting and outputting information in. They have colors associated with them. They have an energy and a frequency associated with them. And so I'm really going to share with you today how I see the chakra system, a journey through the chakra systems, and how it relates to me. I won't be using any Sanskrit names. I won't be using any words that you've never heard before. That's not really, even as a yoga teacher, my area of specialty. I'm keeping it really down to earth and very, I think, just applicable for daily living. So one of the books that I read, I will start by saying, where I did learn quite a bit early on in my yoga teacher training, was the book Wheels of Life by Anodea Judith. I love her teachings around the chakra system, and I really do believe if you're interested in finding more, I would recommend checking out the work that she has provided into the world. So we're going to start with the root chakra, which is really where our root bone is in our body. It's our sits bones, as you hear yoga teachers say in yoga class. It's associated with the color red. It would be energetically the slowest spinning energy disc in the body. The root chakra is the chakra of our survival. It's very primal. And when I think about the root chakra, I think about the element of the earth, right? Like without this earth, nothing exists. And so it's very primal in survival. The shadow side to the root chakra would be attachment and entitlement. So it's like we have this gift through the root chakra of our presence and being here. And then on the other side of that, it's the forcing of what is already naturally ours, right? So it's like that the attachment to anything. The attachment to anything is the shadow side of the root chakra. The entitlement. So there's a difference between knowing your worthiness and the entitlement of your worth. They have a very different energy. When I think of the root chakra, I think of like warrior, I think of fierce, I think of, just really primal energy. And because of the color red, I also think of emotions of just, kind of a fierceness. So when I think of the physical body as it relates to the root chakra, if we want to be more in touch with that, some yoga poses that could be nice for that would be like warrior pose. If you're really wanting to connect with that energy of like, you're right to be here from a healthy place, that would be allowing that line of energy to come down through your sacral, your sits bones, your root chakra into the earth. So when you think of warrior pose, right from the earth up through the center of your body and up through your crown. And what I notice when I work with clients, because as I work with clients as an energy intuitive, I receive information vibrationally, either through color or sound or words or thoughts or visions, and to help the person remove blocks and step into their life of fulfillment or whatever it is that they're calling in. And so what I often see if the root chakra is out of balance, if you're possibly too much into the root chakra, I see a lot of overdoing, and the more like the really overachieving executive, where there's never enough, you're overdoing. And because the root chakra is associated with survival, an unhealthy relationship with this would be believing that money is essential for survival and that there's not enough. So this person would probably experience more financial crisis because there's a relationship between being able to trust that it's always there, right? Like it's our birthright to be here and to have the means to survive. So a person who's out of balance with the root chakra is somebody who hasn't quite connected to that yet. So they're always in a financial crisis of not knowing that there's enough. The foods associated with nourishing this chakra would be proteins when I think of like survival, but it doesn't necessarily have to be animal protein. And I also think of root vegetables, anything that grows in the ground to help to nourish this root chakra. So if you know you're out of balance in the root chakra, either too much or too little, you can also think of like red foods, right? Like beets. They grow on the ground, they're very earthy, they're very rooty. From the root chakra, we come up to the sacral chakra. So for a woman, it is her womb area. For men, same thing, just below the belly button. The sacral chakra is the color orange. It's associated with the element of water. I think of flow. I think of this energy center as really being the balance of giving and receiving, right? Like that's how we create life. This is the chakra of creativity, abundance. In order to produce life in a woman's body, she must receive. She must receive in her body the sperm from a man to create a baby. So I really think of water just flowing and giving and receiving. This is the chakra of creativity and joy and pleasure and abundance. So the shadow side to this that I often see is if someone's experiencing an abundance block, and it might show up as money, it might show up as a relationship. The abundance block is often associated with the sacral chakra. So what I notice is it's more about the struggle to receive in order to then give. And this is where our creativity comes from. So it's like the creation of life. If we are unable to receive and we are always giving, like think of a glass full of water. If it's full of water, you can't receive anymore without spilling over. And so a healthy sacral chakra is one in the balance of giving and receiving. And what I often notice as the shadow side is abundance blocks, particularly around money as it relates to intimacy as well. Some other shadows of maybe an imbalanced sacral chakra might show up as unhealthy emotional boundaries. And a person who might consider themselves to be clairsentient or empathic, which empathy is really a type of clairsentience, a person who feels like they show up in the world relating to other people's emotions and feelings. They may even feel things in the body, has a very open sacral chakra. And so the other shadow side to the abundantly open sacral chakra is the need for healthy boundaries. So when I think of nourishing the sacral chakra, I think of water and liquids. We cannot live without liquids. We can go a lot longer without food than we can water and liquids. And so I notice too that somebody who doesn't have healthy boundaries energetically with emotions might possibly need more nourishment, more water. And yoga poses that are really great for opening up this sacral chakra if you feel that it is closed is anything such as hip openers, pigeon pose, goddess pose, anything to open up the hips. And we also know physically that our hips are a place where we hold a lot of our emotions. And so within this sacral chakra, there's a lot of emotional energy, which is that a connection to somebody who's empathic or clairsentient. And interestingly enough, I have noticed and feel that there is a connection to, since we're talking about body intuition and the clairsentience, to the clairvoyance through the sacral chakra. That when we are willing to surrender and receive, that there's a direct line of energy that opens up also the heart intuition and the throat through the clairaudience up to the third eye and the sight. The next chakra moving up the spine is going to be the solar plexus. And so remember, as we move up, think of the energy spinning a little faster. The vibration increases. And if you understand light therapy, you know that the frequency or the resonance of how quickly photons move creates the color. So the faster moving of these photons changes the color to yellow. And the sacral chakra is really about willpower and confidence. It's the area of all our vital organs, right? Like the liver, the gallbladder, the stomach, all of the things that we have to assimilate information, to assimilate food and nutrients so that we can survive. So I think of the element of fire, which also relates to metabolism. Right, so we receive the food, but how we metabolize the food that we eat has a lot to do with how much fire we have in our body, constitutionally, energetically, Ayurvedically. And so what we see when we are in a healthy solar plexus chakra, the color yellow, which by the way, oftentimes I notice that people's, whatever chakra they're really living in is the color of their aura. They're really emanating that color beyond their energy field, and it's really what vibrates out into the world. So a person with a healthy vitality in the solar plexus is going to feel confident. They're going to be really comfortable with transformation. And when I think of food, I think of carbohydrates because carbohydrates are energy. So this is where a lot of the energy in the body is assimilated. It's used for nourishment. This is where, like, when we think of the physical body, we bring in food and then the body chooses what to do with it. And so I think of like the energy food as being carbohydrates or complex carbohydrates in this area. And a shadow to the solar plexus chakra or an imbalance would be giving away your power. So abandonment of your own power. And you'll often notice, and this just came to me as I was thinking about it, like a person who really has their shoulders shrugged forward, does not stand up tall, is kind of hunched over, is a person who is giving away their power. So there's not even like the energy coming into the solar plexus chakra. There's like a block. You can tell just by the way a person stands. A person who stands up tall, shoulders back, solar plexus chakra is opening, energy's coming in, energy's coming out. We think of a person of confidence. And so another imbalance with the solar plexus chakra, if you're too much in the solar plexus chakra, you're going to be somebody who has a hard time letting go of control. And so because of this, you might feel anxiety, which is why we feel anxiety in the stomach, because we have a need for control, right? So too much willpower, too much strength, too much confidence, too much, kind of force, needing to be in control, then can also turn into anxiety, which is like that anxious feeling in the stomach. So it's really about finding that power within. It's really about more of that knowing that, when you hear people talk about a feeling in their gut as their intuition, this would be a healthy representation of the solar plexus, like that gut intuition. Intuition is not fear or anxiety. Intuition is a knowing. It is an energy of peace and calmness in your belly, in your solar plexus. And so a person who feels out of balance in this way might want to practice the art of surrender. Whereas the sacral chakra was practicing receiving, this would be practicing surrendering. And sometimes what we notice if we're out of balance in this area, emotions that can come up as a result of our emotional state can be anger and resentment, impatience. Those often show up if our solar plexus if that chakra is out of alignment, if there's too much. Right? It's still that need to control. And so yoga poses that are really helpful for this are twisting poses, just to think about moving the stagnation through the solar plexus. I think of it as detoxing or cleansing energetically. I mean, you literally can have like a bowel movement from just allowing yourself to do twisting poses in yoga. So anything to just get things moving through the solar plexus, because if the solar plexus is all about strength and will, then, there's like this really hot, like strong energy in there, and it's going to resist moving. And so the gift in it is transformation, and the shadow is being stuck. And this shows up, I believe, in the physical body and with foods that we eat, right? It's like somebody who even wants to lose weight, like the willpower to lose the weight takes a lot of courage and willingness to keep that energy moving through the body. And so where does it show up? If it's just sitting there, if it's stagnant, if you're stagnant in your life, you might also notice the stagnant energy in your body around your belly. So it's the way that I see the energy moving through the body, and I actually see the energy moving through the body in people. I've actually had clients lose weight before just doing emotional work, not even changing anything in their diet, although I 100% believe that food is the foundation and can heal and can do wonderful things. There is an energy to it as well. So as we move up into the fourth chakra, we get into the heart chakra, the color green. So this is the place where we have the emotion of love. This is where we go from the primal root chakra of I to we. So this is about connection with me and you. This is where abundance in the heart comes from giving and receiving, where it is in the giving that we receive. This is the chakra of unconditional love. This is what connects us all, the heart intuition, the heart energy. You can look up Heart Math Institute for more on that the idea that the heart recognizes, and there's research that proves that the heart recognizes truth and patterns before the mind, before the eyes do. So this is the chakra where we really unite together. We come into balance and unity, the balance of a relationship, right? When we think of love, it's a co-creation. It's, you give and I give. And I think of yoga poses to open the heart is the one I love the most is wheel, bridge pose, anything to open the heart, fish pose, just, even just rolling the shoulders back and just opening the heart. The shadow side to an imbalance of the heart chakra is judgment, rejection, separateness. So not seeing another person as you. The gift is that we begin to see everyone as a reflection of us when we have an open heart. The opposite would be that we judge others because we refuse to look at that as a reflection of us. We don't like what we see in others because we don't like what we see in ourselves. If we have a closed heart, we don't allow ourselves to feel. We don't trust. And so we fear rejection. We fear being left out. We have a fear of being separate, which is why it's so hard for us to open the heart. As we move up into the fifth chakra, we are in the throat chakra, the area where we speak our truth. This is my favorite place to be. This is the color blue. This is the chakra of sound and vibration, which is the world I live in. When you think of like tuning an instrument, the higher notes, the tighter they are, the less space that in the vibration of the string, say on a ukulele or a guitar, the higher the note. These sounds directly resonate with the chakra system. And so this chakra really makes me think of sound and vibration, speaking our truth, standing in our truth. It's where I think about, like your vibe attracts your tribe. It's like what you say, what you resonate with is what you will call into your life. So if you find yourself kind of traveling in new circles, then just be aware of like how you're growing as a person, just really feeling into who do you resonate with. I really associate this chakra as being connected to clairaudience. So clairaudience is receiving intuitive information through the sense of hearing. For me, I know it comes in through my left ear. It sounds like my own voice, but it's like a voice of truth. It's a voice of clarity. And I feel that as this is coming through for me so that it can be transmuted through my voice, which is what I'm doing right now. So I'm hearing information and it's being transmuted through my voice. And I believe that this chakra in particular, in the time that we are living in right now, is one that is going through some great healing, especially for women, to be able to claim our power through our voice and our beliefs, to ask for what we want, and to stand in our truth, to stand up for what we believe in. There's kind of a power of authenticity within this chakra. It's like really just being the voice of reason and the voice of truth is really what comes through for me. So I think a lot about like resonance and vibration and sound healing with the throat chakra, and how much healing is done when we use our voice to confront people when they are doing us wrong, to talk about the hurt that we felt in our life. There's a lot of healing that can take place in just sharing stories. And the yoga poses that help with this are going to be anything that stimulates kind of that throat area, the thyroid. So a shoulder stand, bringing the legs up over the head, or bridge pose where you're just lifting your hips up but not coming into full wheel. And so the shadow side to a very open throat chakra would be that space where we're just not conscious of other people, and so we say things that we don't mean. If the rest of our chakras are out of alignment, if we're not aligned with nourishment and taking care of ourselves from the primal chakra, if we're not aligned with giving and receiving in the sacral chakra, if we're not aligned in our power and our inner power in the solar plexus, if we're not aligned in unity and balance in our heart chakra, then our throat chakra is probably going to be out of balance, and we're going to hear things that people say in the way that it's not meant to be said. We're going to hear things kind of in a more negative context. We might speak a little bit more quickly with the tongue. We might say things that we don't mean because we haven't been given the opportunity for a healthy, balanced outlet to speak our voice. So that's often what I notice if I notice an imbalance in the throat chakra. And then moving up into the third eye chakra, which is the space between your eyebrows, the color indigo. This is really the chakra associated with clarity and insight, clairvoyance. This is where we become from I in the root chakra to we in the heart chakra to be. So from I to we to being, just being in this all-knowing truth. The Sanskrit word for this is anjna, which I find so interesting because years ago when I started meditating, I did not know that. And when I asked my higher self what her name was, because I could see her, she told me Anjna. I thought, oh, awesome. And then I realized years later, going through my yoga teacher training, that meant third eye chakra. So this is where we come into alignment with our higher self. And what's so fascinating about this chakra is we think about the world that we see through our eyes. We think of our eyes being a filter or the lens through which we receive information because it often does receive the majority of our information. So we think about that and we think about how it differs from our third eye, which is the sight within as it relates to the pineal gland, and how our eyes, our physical eyes, exist to allow us the perception of the information that we're receiving. I just think that when you think about that, it's like because the eyes, they can see light, but they're not seeing it in its fullness, right? Like we can't see microwaves. We can't see x-rays. We can't see infrared with the human eye. We have to have something to help us to see that, whether, some type of device or something, but yet we know it exists. So we know that we have the capacity to see beyond what the human eye can see. However, we still question it, which I just find fascinating, that people don't easily relate to clairvoyance, that insight, that inner wisdom that we already are connected to. And so we know that, as far as energy goes and vibration goes, when it comes to light, photons, that the higher and the faster that they move, they become less visible to the eye. So that's what an X-ray would be, right? Or like ultraviolet light, not visible to the human eye anymore. So we see this in a rainbow as well, how we see the different reflections of color, the reflections of light through color. So light is associated with color. So all of these energy discs, these chakras that we're talking about, are just a representation of color through the light frequency in our body. The lower energy, slower moving is in the root chakra all the way up to the third eye and then to the crown and above. And this is what holds our energy body together. So when I think of the third eye, I think of clarity. I think of, unity consciousness, realizing and seeing the bigger picture that we are all one. There's no duality. It's just a different shade or a different reflection or a different resonance of that light particle. So it's like a different vibration, a different wave, right? So there's really no dark or light. There's just less light. So if you look at it through the lens of unity, you see that it's all just saying the same thing. It's just less of one thing. It's not separate. And so the third eye is really where we get into more unity consciousness and really see that we are all connected. And then from there we move to the seventh chakra and beyond. There are many different, depending on where you're reading or studying, some will say that there are 13, because then you get into the esoteric body, the ability to exist or flow between sort of the vibrations or the dimensions happens in these upper chakras. And so a yoga pose that I like to do if I find that I'm a little out of balance or maybe not grounded is I'll actually do a headstand. I'll bring my third eye to the ground and just turn the world upside down. And just allow the energy to come back to allow the energy that's sort of in that area of my body to then be released into the earth. And I also noticed that if I'm receiving information through the third eye chakra, which is the place in our body where we experience clairvoyance, intuition through clairvoyance, through sight, through clarity, I find that one, it happens easily when we are more relaxed and just present with what is. So we're not in our emotional body, we're not in our fear, we're not in our primal energy, we're just sort of in the space between. But what I have noticed over the years is that oftentimes if I'm resisting that space, the openness of just the vision to see clear of just what is, that physically it can manifest as headaches. So I've had that just awareness that this is sort of a trigger or a reminder that I'm just resisting clarity. I'm resisting truth sometimes. And so I'm so grateful to have this experience to share this with you because, I really just realized, as I said last week in my podcast interview, that this is really how I relate to everything in the world. And it's how I see the world through vibration, through light, through energy. I do believe everything is energy. Everything is just an exchange of energy, a frequency of energy. And I believe that our sole purpose in this life is really just to live in resonance with the highest vibration, the highest frequency of our self-expression. And so when we think of things like that, we can even see this, a virus has a frequency, food has a frequency. There are high frequency foods. Fruit is the highest frequency food of all. Think about where it comes from. It comes from the tree. It's higher up. It just automatically falls off the tree when it's ready to be eaten. And so lower frequency foods on an energetic level would be animal protein because it requires that it is hunted to eat. And so it would probably give you a feeling of being more grounded, although root vegetables can do that too. When I think of the nutrition for the third eye or, moving into the upper chakras, I think of things like, I actually go back down to thinking of mushrooms and thinking of how highly intelligent fungus are. They have this system that they communicate with underground, and I could totally geek out, and that's probably a whole nother episode. So I think of adaptogens and really highly intelligent foods that feed the seventh chakra, the sixth and the seventh chakra. So that's what I think about when I don't really think of foods that we put into our human body for survival. I think of the foods that are more intelligent than we are. And those are the ones that come to mind. So thank you for listening and for allowing me just to share what was coming through for me today. I'd love to hear your thoughts and insights and anything that you appreciated about this episode. I also want to invite you to join us for Friday morning's Healing Frequency, which is happening. We're trying it out in May. We're doing some meditation, journaling, and discussion. We're having a lot of fun right now. I allow you to choose the energetic vibrational price match that works for you to join us, but it's called the Healing Frequency. So you can find more information out through Instagram at jen.mons. Click on my link in the bio, check out the Healing Frequency or jenmons.com/healing frequency. And let me just know what you think. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. Sending lots of love and aloha. The content of this podcast is to educate, inspire, and inform you of pathways to an embodied healing self. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice from your medical doctor, therapist, registered dietitian, or nutritionist for any questions you may have regarding your diagnosis or condition. Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this community. I know there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and I am deeply honored that you chose to listen in and be present with me today. I love and cherish and appreciate you, and I want to invite you to join our tribe and Facebook group under jenmons.com/connect. I would also love to gift you your guide to discovering and overcoming the self-limiting beliefs standing in the way of you living in optimal health, more energy, fulfillment, and self-confidence to create an embodied, healthy, whole you. You can find this at jenmons.com/tribe. I also have one small request to help spread the love. In order for this podcast to show up in the feed of social media platforms of other like-minded people, we need reviews. So please head on over to jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review. You will also find other inspiring episodes on that page. So I personally read these reviews weekly and would love to give you a shout out and share your kind words with our listeners. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Jen Mons or the Holistic Coach with the W Holistic and Jen Mons JenMons.com. Thank you so much and have an amazing day. Aloha.